Hey, so this is going to be a follow-up to my last video I made on the Trump assassination attempt. And boy, is this one going to be a doozy. I believe that the Trump assassination attempt was an inside job. And I believe it was an inside job by local law enforcement officials who were assisting with the security procedures of that event that Trump spoke at. And I'm going to explain why I believe that is the most logical explanation for what happened here, rather than the prevailing theory at the moment that the Secret Service was just grossly incompetent. Now, I do believe the Secret Service screwed up. I do think the Secret Service, at the very least, made a few mistakes, one of which was to let the security parameter that they were overseeing not include that building, and to let local law enforcement officials handle that very important vantage point. But additionally, they were too slow to take out the shooter, so no matter what, the Secret Service did screw up here. However, I still do refuse to believe that Thomas Matthew Crooks, a 20-year-old kitchen staff worker at a local nursing home, who was smart but by no means a Mensa IQ genius, who did not make the rifle club that he tried out for his bad shooting skills, as we can see, that he single-handedly exploited this weakness and incompetency in the Secret Service, got on the rooftop and shot Trump with no assistance. Because there's one big thing about this whole idea that doesn't make sense. How on earth would Thomas Matthew Crooks have known that in advance, that the rooftop was going to be open? How on earth would he have known that the Secret Service was not going to secure it, or the local law enforcement would not? Well, I'll tell you how he knew it. Somebody tipped him off beforehand. And that somebody is very, very likely one of those local law enforcement officials that was involved with securing that building. It could have been a Secret Service agent. I mean, I couldn't rule that out, but at the same time, I would not say it's likely. Because the Secret Service, as I mentioned, they were not involved with the securing of that building specifically. And I just believe if there was a Secret Service agent, personally, I think they would have chosen someone else. Not some local yokel from Bethel Park, which is right near Pittsburgh. They would have chose some random assassin from who knows where. It just would be it's too ironic that they would choose someone from right near the local region where Trump was speaking, because of course he was speaking at Butler, which is near Pittsburgh, which is near Bethel Park. It's all in the same region, which of course brings me back to why this had to be, at least I believe, a local official. Probably some local yokel who hated Trump, knew about the location, maybe even vied for trying to keep the rooftop not secured so that they could make sure that then they could bring their pawn, which essentially was what Thomas Matthew Crooks was for this person, some random stupid 20-year-old pawn who with a gun, who he made sure to let know that that rooftop would be available for at least part of the day so he could climb up there and take shots at Trump. And the reason is, too, this person could have also been involved with helping keep the rooftop open, if he had any authority at all in setting up the security for that building. And also, as for how the FBI and police haven't yet tracked to this person, well, obviously I don't have the details. I think the FBI has a theory similar to mine, that's probably infinitely more advanced, and they're probably working on it as we speak. However, this person probably was a police officer, or at least someone affiliated with local law enforcement. So they would have some idea of how to cover their tracks. I mean, we see there's been no digital footprint whatsoever for Thomas Matthew Crooks regarding this, almost suspiciously so, like somebody went out of their way to cover it all up, which very, very strongly hints that there was somebody involved colluding with him, and probably, in my opinion, was more the brains of the operation here, while Thomas Matthew Crooks was the pawn who, took his shots at Trump and then got himself killed. I mean, he has to be, to some extent, you have to be just a little bit crazy or stupid to do that, And I think Thomas Matthew Crooks may have been a little bit too much of both to do it all on his own. Because here's the thing, you're having to assume that if I'm wrong, if there was not a person assisting either within the Secret Service or local law enforcement, and between the two of those, local law enforcement is the much, much, much more likely explanation, like I mentioned, since they would already know this guy living in the same region as him, and being able to connect with him in non-digital ways, like meet up in the woods or something. You're having to assume, if this is not true, that this was all just gross incompetence on the part of the Secret Service and the local law enforcement officials. What this means, if I was wrong here, is that not only that, though, that Thomas Matthew Crooks somehow knew to exploit this incompetence in the Secret Service. He somehow knew the rooftop would be unsecured. How would he know that? I mean, if he came that day to shoot Trump, let's say, he came that day with the intent to kill Trump, and then he gets there and he's like, oh, what a lucky day. The rooftop is unsecured. I mean, wow, I was just going to squat in bushes and shoot at the former president, but now I get to have a nice perch to shoot at it. I mean, it's technically possible, but I think that's extremely unlikely, don't you? I really don't think that's what happened. It makes infinitely more sense that somebody tipped him off that the rooftop would be unsecured. Because it either happened by random chance that he exploited that incompetence, or he knew in advance, and perhaps somebody even set it up that way for him. And like I mentioned before, it would make all the sense in the world that it had to be a local law enforcement official, since they were the ones that were in charge of securing that building, not the Secret Service. So that is something that has just been bugging me. I ranted to my brother who works for the DOD or Department of Defense, and he just kind of gave me a big explanation for why he thought I was wrong. But then he didn't really actually seem to even understand what my theory was. He thought I was trying to suggest that it was a big conspiracy by the Secret Service and the local law enforcement. And I don't believe that. Okay, I believe this was at most one or two people, including with Thomas Matthew Crooks. But, to be honest, even though I really generally stay away from conspiracy theories, and I generally believe as Napoleon Bonaparte, which I have my painting of him, you can't see, I believe, as he once said, never attribute to insidiousness what could be better attributed to incompetence, and I'm butchering that a little, but I very strongly believe in that quote, and I normally would just assume this was a massive oversight on the part of the Secret Service and or local law enforcement. But the thing is, the more I think about it in this case, this just doesn't really make sense that that would be what happened here. There could have been some mistakes they made, but I think there had to be something a little bit more insidious going on here. And it would make all the sense in the world. We're coming up to the election. It's only a few months away. Trump is an extremely controversial figure. Just to give you a reference, I'm not trying to stir up political opinions here, but I don't really like Trump. I don't hate him, but I don't really like him. I probably lean more against him than for him, though I do agree with him on some positions and disagree with him on others. But I didn't want to see him get assassinated. But Trump, there's tremendous controversy surrounding him, and it's not unthinkable that this could happen where some inside person would cooperate with a crazy person like Thomas Matthew Crooks to, have him assassinated. And as for why, of course, the FBI hasn't yet announced this, my guess is they actually are working on a theory similar to this, but they're not disclosing the details for the public because they don't want to maybe let on to whoever it is they're trying to catch that they're on his trail, So anyways, that's just my crazy rant. If there's one person you can trust, it's a random guy ranting on the internet in front of a grainy cam who occasionally dresses like the Joker. Obviously, I must be speaking the gospel truth here. So, if you disagree with me, feel free to say so in the comment section. I'd actually love to hear alternate theories on how you think this could have played out, or how you think this occurred. Do you believe this was just a massive oversight on the part of the Secret Service and law enforcement? Do you believe there was an inside job going on here, or do you believe something entirely different? Though I don't know how many other alternatives there could be. So anyways, just thanks for watching. Feel free to comment below, and see you next time. Bye.